I refused to give up my dream job to run the family business. My father's shocking decision turned our whole family upside down. Hey Reddit, I've been a long-time lurker, but I never thought I'd be sharing my own story here. But after everything that's happened, I need to get this off my chest and maybe get some outside perspective. I, 28F, come from what you'd call a business dynasty family. My great-grandfather started a small manufacturing company that my grandfather turned into a national brand. By the time my father took over, we were a household name with factories in 3 states. Growing up, there was never any question about what my future would hold. I was going to take over the family business. From a young age, I was groomed for the role. Summer internships at the company, business classes in high school, and a strongly encouraged business major in college. Don't get me wrong, I didn't hate it. I actually found the business world fascinating, and I was good at it. But there was always something missing. During my senior year of college, I took an elective course in environmental science on a whim. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. For the first time, I felt truly passionate about something. I started reading everything I could get my hands on about climate change, sustainability, and green energy. I even convinced my professor to let me do an independent study project on sustainable business practices. When I graduated, I shocked everyone by announcing that I wanted to pursue a master's degree in environmental science instead of going straight into the family business. My father was furious, but my mother convinced him to let me get it out of my system. They probably thought I'd do a year and then come to my senses. But that's not what happened. I fell even deeper in love with the field. I excelled in my studies and landed an internship with a cutting-edge green energy startup. By the time I finished my degree, I had a job offer from them that I couldn't refuse. This is where things started to get really tense with my family. My father couldn't understand why I'd want to work for some hippie company, his words, when I had a guaranteed CEO position waiting for me. My older brother, who had always assumed he'd be COO under me, was resentful that I was abandoning my responsibilities. Even my mother, who had initially supported me, started dropping hints about family loyalty. But I stood my ground. I told them that I respected our family's legacy, but I needed to forge my own path. I truly believed, and still do, that the work I'm doing is vital for the future of our planet. Plus, I was happier than I'd ever been. The startup environment was exciting, my colleagues were brilliant and passionate, and I felt like I was making a real difference. For the next 3 years, things were tense but stable. I'd visit home for holidays and major events, endure the passive-aggressive comments and guilt trips, and then return to my life. I missed the closeness we used to have, but I told myself it was worth it to follow my dreams. Then, about 6 months ago, everything exploded. My father called a family meeting. This wasn't unusual, we often had these to discuss business matters. What was unusual was that he invited my aunt, his sister, and my cousins. The whole extended family was there. My father stood up and made an announcement that left us all stunned. He was stepping down as CEO, effective immediately. But instead of naming me as his successor, as had always been the plan, he was appointing my cousin Jake to take over the company. The room erupted into chaos. My mother was in tears, my brother was shouting, my aunt looked smugly triumphant, and poor Jake looked like he might pass out from shock. As for me, I just sat there in disbelief. When things calmed down enough for my father to speak again, he explained his decision. He said that while he respected my choice to pursue my own career, the company needed a leader who was fully committed. Jake had been working his way up through the ranks for years and knew the business inside and out. My father believed he was the best choice to lead the company into the future. I'd like to say I handled this gracefully, but that would be a lie. I exploded. I accused my father of betraying me, of punishing me for daring to have my own dreams. I pointed out all the ways Jake wasn't ready for the role, how he'd run the company into the ground. I said things I'm not proud of, to pretty much everyone in the room. In the end, I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. I drove back to my apartment in a daze, my mind reeling. The fallout from that day has been intense. My brother isn't speaking to me, he blames me for forcing Dad to look outside the immediate family for a successor. My mother keeps calling, alternating between trying to guilt me into quitting my job and come fix things and begging me to at least make peace with my father. My aunt has been insufferably smug, making comments on social media about how blood will tell and how the company is finally in the right hands. As for my father, we haven't spoken since that day. He's sent a few emails, mostly businesslike in tone, explaining the transition plan and what it means for my inheritance, which has been significantly reduced, though not eliminated entirely. But there's been no apology, no attempt to really discuss what happened. The only person who's reached out in a positive way is, surprisingly, Jake. He sent me a long email saying that he never wanted things to happen this way. He said he respects the work I'm doing and hopes we can maintain a good relationship despite everything. He even floated the idea of partnering with my company on some sustainability initiatives for the family business. I appreciate the olive branch, but I'm not ready to take it yet. So here I am, Reddit. My dream job has turned into a nightmare. The career I love now feels tainted by guilt and resentment. My family is falling apart, and I can't help feeling like it's all my fault. Part of me wants to quit my job, go back home with my tail between my legs, and beg for forgiveness. Maybe I could convince my father to reconsider, or at least work out some kind of co-leadership with Jake. But another part of me is angry. Why should I have to give up everything I've worked for just because my family can't accept my choices? I'm lost, confused, and hurting. Any advice would be appreciated. Am I the asshole here? Should I have seen this coming? Is there any way to fix this mess without completely sacrificing my own dreams and happiness? Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your comments and support. I've been reading through everything and trying to process it all. A lot of you have asked some really good questions, so I'll try to address the most common ones here. 1. Why didn't I try to incorporate my environmental interests into the family business? Believe me, I tried. During college and even after, I pitched numerous ideas for making our manufacturing processes more sustainable, exploring green energy options for our factories, etc. My father always brushed these off as unnecessary expenses that would hurt the bottom line. The company has always been very old school in its approach. 2. Did I ever consider working for the family business part-time or in an advisory role? I did suggest this when I first decided to take the job with the startup. I offered to come in as a sustainability consultant or to work on specific green initiatives. My father said it was all or nothing, either I commit to the CEO track or I'm out. 3. What does my partner think about all this? I actually haven't mentioned my partner because, well, I don't have one right now. My last serious relationship ended about a year ago, partly because of the stress from all this family drama. It's been hard to focus on my personal life with everything else going on. 4. Have I talked to Jake since his email? Not yet. I appreciate the people saying I should hear him out, and I probably will eventually. Right now, it's just too raw. I don't blame Jake personally, he didn't ask for any of this, but it's hard to separate him from the situation. 5. What about my brother? Why isn't he taking over? My brother, 31M, has always been more interested in the operations side of things than the big picture leadership stuff. He's great at managing the day-to-day of the business but has never wanted the pressure of being CEO. That's why the original plan was for me to be CEO and him to be COO. 6. Have I considered therapy? Several people have suggested this, and you're absolutely right. I actually started seeing a therapist about a month ago to help deal with all this. It's been helpful, but I've still got a long way to go. I'm still reading through all your comments and trying to figure out my next steps. Thank you all again for your insights and support. I'll update if there are any major developments. Edit 2. Okay, wow. I never expected this post to get so much attention. Thank you all for your support, advice, and even the tough love. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I wanted to give you an update on what's happened since my last edit. First, I took the advice of many of you and reached out to Jake. We met for coffee, at a neutral location, not at home or the office, and we had a long, honest talk. It turns out he's been feeling almost as conflicted about this whole situation as I have. He admitted that he knew about Dad's plan for a few weeks before the announcement, but he was sworn to secrecy. He said he tried to convince Dad to reconsider or at least to talk to me first, but Dad wouldn't budge. Jake also shared some insights into what's been happening at the company since I left. Apparently, there's been a lot of pressure from our larger clients and even some investors to modernize our practices and become more environmentally conscious. Jake has been pushing for changes, but he's meeting resistance from the old guard, including my father, who is still on the board. This led to a surprising proposition from Jake. He suggested that we consider a co-leadership model, where he would handle the traditional business side of things, and I would come on board to lead a new sustainability and innovation division. He thinks that my expertise combined with my family name could help push through some much-needed changes. I'll admit, the idea is tempting. It would allow me to bring my passion and knowledge to the family business while still maintaining some independence. But I'm also wary. I love my current job, and I'm not sure I'm ready to leave it. Plus, I'm concerned about how this would affect my relationship with my father and brother. Speaking of my brother, he finally agreed to talk to me. It didn't go great. He's still angry, but now I understand it's not just about the company. He feels like he's been stuck in the middle of this feud between me and our parents, and he resents it. He also admitted that he's been struggling in his role without me there as a buffer between him and Dad. We didn't resolve everything, but at least we're talking again. I also had a long conversation with my mom. She tearfully admitted that she regrets not standing up for me more. She said she was so focused on keeping the peace that she lost sight of what was really important, her children's happiness. She's promised to be more supportive going forward, regardless of what I decide to do. As for my father, well, that's still complicated. He sent me an email, yes, an email, not a call, saying he wants to meet and discuss things like adults. His tone was still pretty businesslike, but I guess it's a start. I haven't replied yet. Part of me wants to hear him out, but another part is terrified of being hurt again. So, that's where things stand now. I have a lot to think about. Do I stay in my dream job, where I'm happy and fulfilled? Do I take a risk and try to bring my expertise back to the family business? Is there a middle ground I'm not seeing? I'm going to take some time to really think this through. My therapist has suggested I make a pros and cons list for each option, considering both my professional goals and my personal well-being. She's also encouraged me to think about what I want my relationship with my family to look like in 5, 10, 20 years, regardless of my career choices. Thank you all again for your advice and support. It's given me a lot to think about and has honestly helped me see this situation from perspectives I hadn't considered before. I'll update again once I've made a decision or if anything significant changes. P.S. To the person who suggested I write a book about all this, I actually laughed out loud. But who knows? Maybe someday. Final update: it's been a few months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I wanted to come back and share how things have turned out, partly to give closure to those who've been following my story, and partly because writing it all out helps me process everything. After much soul-searching, countless pros and cons lists, and many therapy sessions, I made a decision. I decided to take Jake up on his offer, with some conditions. I proposed a 1-year trial period where I would come on as a consultant, leading sustainability initiatives while maintaining my position at the startup. They agreed to let me go part-time. This way, I could test the waters without fully committing. To my surprise, Jake and the board, including my father, agreed to my terms. We drew up a contract that clearly outlined my role, responsibilities, and the goals for the sustainability initiative. The past few months have been intense, to say the least. There have been challenges, for sure. Some of the old guard are resistant to change, and navigating family dynamics in a professional setting is tricky. But there have also been incredible victories. We've already implemented several eco-friendly practices that are not only good for the environment but are also saving the company money. I'm proud to say that we're on track to reduce our carbon footprint by 15% this year. Working with Jake has been better than I expected. We make a good team. His traditional business acumen balances well with my more innovative approach. He's been incredibly supportive, often backing me up in board meetings when I propose new initiatives. My brother and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. Working together has actually helped. We're remembering how well we used to collaborate. He's admitted that he's learning a lot from the changes I'm implementing, and I've gained a new appreciation for his operational skills. My mom is thrilled to have the family working together again. She's been our biggest cheerleader, often mediating when tensions rise. She's also taken a renewed interest in the business, particularly in our community outreach programs. And my father? Well, that's been the biggest surprise of all. About a month into my consultancy, He asked me to lunch. Just the two of us. For the first time in years, we really talked. He admitted that he had been wrong to issue the ultimatum all those years ago, and that his recent actions were born out of hurt and pride. He said seeing the positive changes I was bringing to the company made him realize how short-sighted he had been. It wasn't an instant fix, we had a lot of hurt to work through. But that lunch was the start of healing for us. We've been having weekly meetings, not just about business, but about our lives, our hopes, our regrets. Last week, he actually asked me to explain climate change to him. Never thought I'd see the day. As for me, I feel like I'm finally finding balance. I'm able to pursue my passion for environmental science while also honoring my family's legacy. The startup I was working for? We're now partnering on a major green energy project for our factories. It feels like the best of both worlds. I won't pretend everything is perfect. We still have disagreements, and there are days when the old resentments flare up. But we're learning to communicate better, to listen to each other, and to respect our differences. My 1-year trial period is almost up, and I've decided to come on board full-time as the Chief Sustainability Officer. Jake and I will be co-CEOs, with clearly defined roles that play to our individual strengths. My brother will remain as COO, and together, I think we make a pretty strong team. Looking back at my original post, I'm amazed at how far we've come. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm excited about the future of our family business. We're not just talking about profits anymore, but about our impact on the world and the legacy we want to leave. To everyone who offered advice, shared similar stories, or just sent good thoughts my way, thank you. Your support helped me through one of the toughest periods of my life. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that it's possible to honor your roots while still growing in new directions. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. Who knows? Maybe I will write that book someday. But for now, I've got a company to help run and a family to reconnect with. Wish me luck, Reddit.